Started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Gilligan. I'm the Communications Director at RVA757 Connects. Welcome to our Innovation Spotlight. And we have an exciting program this afternoon to continue that talk that we've been having about the growing digital infrastructure taking place in our mega region. Today, we are taking a deeper dive into the subsea cables that come ashore there in Virginia Beach and that connect continents, countries, and cities. Let's see here. Sure. There we go. We've got a full agenda this morning, this afternoon, I should say. We'll hear from our sponsor. I'll give you an update on what RVA757 Connects is doing. We'll do a topic. We'll talk about our topic, and then we'll leave room for questions and answers, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next. Just a reminder, we are recording this session, and we will post the Innovation Spotlight recordings on our website probably in about a week or so. If you have any questions during the presentation, send them through using the chat function, and then we'll be able to answer those questions at the very end. RVA757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations. One of our corporate supporters is the Newport News Shipbuilding. It's the largest industrial employer in Virginia, and it's the sole designer, builder, and refueler of U.S. Navy aircraft carriers. Thanks to Newport News Shipbuilding for sponsoring today's virtual innovation spotlight. With us today is Jonathan Arena. He's the Vice President and Chief Counsel at Newport News Shipbuilding, which is a division of HII. Named to this position in 2018, Jonathan provides legal advice and counsel to senior management and is responsible for overseeing and coordinating the provisions of legal advice to the division. Prior to his current role, Jonathan served as senior counsel for Boeing Global Services, and before that, he served as a senior attorney at NASA, where he acted as a senior legal advisor to the Space Shuttle and International Space Station programs. Arena earned his bachelor's degree in history from The Ohio State University, and I emphasize that because that's my alma mater. And he also received his law degree from the College of William & Mary and a master's in business administration from Washington University in St. Louis. Jonathan, I will let you take a few moments and speak to us.
Yeah, Greg, thank you very much. And let me add my welcome to everyone on the call this afternoon. And thank you for the shout out to our alma mater, although there's likely at least a few Michigan grads that just ended the call and a couple of Penn Staters that just put me on mute as well. But I'm very excited to be here this afternoon. I think we have a very exciting program, and I welcome the opportunity to spend just a couple of minutes to familiarize folks who maybe aren't as familiar with the shipyard, who we are and what we do. As Greg mentioned, the shipyard has been part of Hampton Roads and has really grown up with Hampton Roads for the last 136 years. Collis P. Huntington started this shipyard that long ago. And today my office sits right outside of a large block of granite where Mr. Huntington inscribed the company's motto, which has lasted the 136 years. Always good ships, at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always good ships. We've spent much of that time, as many of you in the Hampton Roads area will know, helping to build our nation's Navy. Today, as was mentioned, we are the sole designer and builder of the new Ford-class aircraft carriers. I often get asked, how big is an aircraft carrier? So for those of you who maybe haven't driven by or been to the yard recently, the Ford carriers are about 100,000 tons. They're about 1,200 feet long, and each carrier takes about 50 million man-hours to build over a 5-year period. We also overhaul all of the Nimitz-class carriers, and what that means is those boats are designed to last about 50 years, and so after 25 years, they come in and we take out the spent nuclear fuel, refuel those boats, and overhaul them so they're good for another 25 years. We work in conjunction with our partner, Electric Boat, up in Groton, Connecticut, to also build the Navy's nuclear submarine fleet. So today that means we are working towards building 2 Virginia-class submarines per year and are working right now to build the very first Columbia-class submarine, which will be the new Navy's ballistic missile submarine to replace the old Ohio-class submarine. That's all kind of a detailed way of saying that Newport News Shipbuilding is open for business, and we have all that we can take. And much like other employers, and probably many folks on this call today, we are in a hiring mode at the shipyard. So certainly if you know of anyone in the region that's looking for an opportunity, anything from a pipe fitter to a welder to a electrician, anyone from an accountant to a human resources professional to an attorney working in my office. We have many opportunities open right now to work for a world-class company and to help your nation's defense as well. So with that, I'll sit back and enjoy the conversation. I know that it's going to be a very engaging one today, and I'll turn it back over to you, Greg. Thank you.
Great, thanks, John. Appreciate it. That was very interesting information. Let me start sharing our screen again, and we will continue. 1 second here. There we go. Let me give you all an update on what's happening at the RVA757 Connects. You know, we're an organization that's bringing the power of convening, connecting, and collaborating to the mega region from Richmond to Hampton Roads to ensure the future economic growth and prosperity for everyone in the I-64 Innovation Corridor. As you can see, we're pursuing several different priorities this year. One of our priorities is to spearhead the efforts to get the Richmond and Hampton Roads region designated as a global internet hub. We need a strategic plan in order to do that, to make this happen. The I-64 Innovation Corridor has many assets in place needed to become such a global internet hub. Coming ashore in Virginia Beach are the 3 subsea cables connecting the United States to Spain and France and Puerto Rico and Brazil. We'll talk more about that later in the program. These deep sea cables connect in Henrico County, where Meta, which is Facebook's parent company, and is investing more than $1 billion in a 2 million square foot data center campus. The first phase of that campus opened in 2020. Next door to Meta is a 1.4 million square foot QTS Richmond Network access point, which is the world's 4th largest data center. And QTS is underway to double the size of that facility. Global Internet Hub Initiative was one of the findings from the I-64 Innovation Corridor Opportunity Study last year that was funded in part from a Go Virginia grant. Thanks again to Go Virginia for funding that. The full report is available at the RVA757 Connects website if you want to see it. Planning process has started on the Global Internet Hub Steering Committee. We established a strategic planning process that will take the rest of this year, but early part of next year to complete. We've conducted a comprehensive situation review and are identifying strategic action plans. Our plan is to hire some consultants to help us formulate, excuse me, to help us formulate key action plans and bring it all together in a comprehensive strategic implementation plan and report. We've held 4 steering committee meetings already, including this one in person that we held in late August in Williamsburg, where we had more than 40 people attending. That meeting was the second of 6 meetings planned for this year to help provide an informed perspective, to review documents and research findings, and to begin to formulate a strategy. Many members are from companies like Bank of America and CarMax, from digital infrastructure firms like Meta and the Pixel Factory, and subsea cable owners, and broadband firms, and cyber companies, and all those representing utilities and planning agencies, the chambers, economic development entities, and the military. Strategic Planning Initiative received a $100,000 grant from Go Virginia Region 4, which is the Richmond area, and Region 5, which is the Hampton Roads region. Additional funding came from Dominion Energy, Henrico County, the City of Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads Alliance, Old Dominion University, and Dragonfly Group. We have created a project website to help this committee members keep up with the project, but also the website is used and served as a resource repository for anyone who wants to follow our progress and to see our research findings. Check it out at www.globalinternethub.org. As part of our effort to educate the public about the digital assets in the mega region and about the Global Internet Hub possibilities, we encouraged the Richmond Times-Dispatch to create a full-page infographic as a part of the newspaper's Insight section that ran on Saturday, September 24th. The infographic focused on how subsea cables are coming ashore in Virginia Beach and connecting to data centers in Henrico County. You can find this infographic on our globalinternethub.org website if you'd like to take a look. All this talk about Global Internet Hub and digital assets brings us to today's webinar on subsea cables coming ashore in Virginia Beach. The cables are the mega region's key digital assets. Last month, we learned more about the regional fiber network that will bring faster and more reliable internet service to Hampton Roads. 5 Hampton Roads cities, including Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Suffolk, have joined forces to build this 119-mile fiber ring. Future phases include eventually connecting all 17 cities and counties in that region. But these growing digital assets all start at Virginia Beach, with the subsea cables landing there. These cables are the 3 of the most modern, highest capacity routes in the world. A 4th cable is under development and would be the first and only cable to connect the United States with South Africa. Additionally, Virginia Beach has permits for 4 more subsea cable conduits. This includes the confluence cables coming in from New Jersey, and connecting Virginia Beach and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, and Miami. But Virginia Beach is more than just where these cables land. The city of Virginia Beach has a growing digital infrastructure, including having data centers and with plans for even more data centers. And the city is a part of the fiber ring network, as I mentioned. Here more to tell us about these growing digital assets in Virginia Beach is Charlie Bauman. He's the Business Development Coordinator for the Virginia Beach Economic Development Department. Charlie, take it away for us.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of this discussion today, and importantly, share some specifics about how Virginia Beach is helping to foster the growth of our technical capability here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You can go forward. Next slide. This is a perfect picture of how things are unfolding for the U.S. East Coast and Virginia in particular. It displays the connectivity between the European connections and also the planned connections in South America and the Caribbean. So this in and of itself really positions Virginia well going forward. And you can see the list of folks that are part of the ownership group of these cable connections. Next slide. A little bit of history here. We've from 2012 to present, this slide needs a little updating because things are happening so rapidly. Seems to have picked up a lot of speed here in the past few months, for that matter, especially with this initiative. But you'll see the important players that are involved in the development of the cable landing initiative here in Virginia Beach, which is a big part of how all this is going to proceed for the Commonwealth of Virginia. As I've often shared, if not for these cables landing on the shores in the Commonwealth and specifically in Virginia Beach, we wouldn't be here today having our conversation. So it's important to have folks understand that there's a lot of challenges around that. We as a city, the partnerships that are involved in making that happen from federal, state to local are many. So it takes a real team to pull this stuff off, not to mention keeping it in play going forward and finding new sites as we progress this industry. Next slide. Here's some additional information about some of the companies that are involved here in Virginia Beach. You'll be hearing later from a very important player in our community, and that is Greg Twitt with Global Links. Greg and I have gotten to know each other a little bit better here in the past few months, and I'm continually impressed with his level of knowledge in the private sector to engineer the advancement of this industry in Virginia. And in fact, the private sector is really the team that's going to be pulling this forward on behalf of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Next slide. In order to accommodate the industry, Virginia Beach embarked upon setting some backdrop to help the industry grow and invest in our city. And you can see that we lowered the tax rate, same with the business license cap, and put together a project development team within our Department of Economic Development to help companies that are planning to invest in data center infrastructure to move that process through the approving authorities here locally and at the state level to get these projects up and running. Next slide. We've got, again, some additional information here that some of it needs to be updated, but, and I know that Greg will elaborate a little bit more on some of these details as we go forward, but there's some specific information here in addition to some additional information, hopefully on the next slide, that shares that certainly Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads are a growing player in this whole industry, not just in the US, but globally. We in Virginia Beach have been working hard to identify sites, not only for the cable landing opportunities, but also sites for data center, data related activity to come and invest. So we've got several city-owned parks, well, two in particular, two locations known as Corporate Landing and the Innovation Park in Virginia Beach. And interestingly, we are engaging with the US Navy in a concept known as future-based design to help NAS Oceana put some of the unused parcels of property that they control back into the public stream of commerce. So that in and of itself will provide even more additional space, property for development for data centers in particular, given the fact that data center activity is friendly to the operation of a master jet base on the US East Coast. Next slide. And again, that's just a brief of how we're approaching this in Virginia Beach. It again is evolving day to day. If not for this partnership and the collective folks that are listening in, we wouldn't be able to get to where we need to be. So we appreciate everybody's assistance.
Great, thanks, Charles, for that update. What's happening in Virginia Beach and plans for Virginia Beach moving forward. Let's talk about who our speakers are and learn a little bit more about what's happening in the subsea cable industry. We have two speakers today. We have Geraldo Benina. He's the head of sales in North America for Telex, a global communications infrastructure company that has developed subsea cables landings in Virginia Beach. He's an industry veteran with more than 25 years of experience in sales management and business development positions. He's worked with Telefonica Group, Telex, since June of 2010. And then we also have Greg Quitt, who is the founder and CEO of GlobalNix Data Centers, which is a subsea carrier-neutral co-location data center in the Corporate Landing Business Park there in Virginia Beach. He developed the cable landing infrastructure and data center projects in Virginia Beach and in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Before we hear from the two of them, we'd like to show you a brief video, and so everyone knows, the only sound that's attached to this video is just a music. Geraldo may provide some commentary as we watch this 2-minute video.
So this is the actual landings of our cables, Maria and Brusa, which land in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and in Sopelana, Spain. So that's what you're seeing there is the final pulling of the cables across the beach and into the beach manholes, where they'll continue there through the bore pipes to the data centers or the sites that the cable landing stations that they terminate at in Virginia Beach and in Sopelana, Spain. And then this is our Brusa cable system that I'll describe here shortly, along with the description of our entire network and the services we provide. So those are the two of the cable systems that we land in Virginia Beach. The third that you'll see in the presentation a little further on is the Dunant cable system, which is the newest subsea cable to land in Virginia Beach. And that also lands in our Virginia Beach CLS, and the other end it terminates in southern France.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you, Greg. All right, hi, I'm Gerardo Bonilla. I lead a sales team in North America for Telxius. I'll be speaking briefly about our global network and the benefits it brings to the Mid-Atlantic region. I'd like to begin by thanking RVA757 Connects for the opportunity to be here with you today and for the continued support. Telxius operates one of the largest subsea networks linking the US, Latin America, and Europe. We manage an ultra-high capacity network on over 56,000 miles of subsea cable and terrestrial backhaul. We have 88 POPs and 19 fully owned cable landing stations. Telxius is majority owned by the Telefonica Group with a 70% interest, and Ponte Gadea, a Spanish investor, who holds a 30% stake in the company. Telefonica's brands include Telxius, ourselves, Vivo, which is the leading fixed and wireless provider in Brazil, Movistar, which is the leading wireless and cable service provider in Spain and Latin America, and O2, which is Telefonica's mobile network operator in the UK. Together, these Telefonica networks provide direct access to over 350 million fixed and wireless customers, in addition to the top OTTs and content and cloud service providers. Telxius is also the exclusive provider of international capacity and IP services for the Telefonica Group. In addition to our global subsea network, we also operate one of the largest tier 1 international IP networks in the world, with direct peering at the major hubs in Europe, Latin America, and the US. Next slide, please, Greg. So SAM1 is our first cable system. The SAM1 was put into service in 2001. It's the longest subsea cable system in Latin America, with a total length of 15,500 miles, connecting the US with Central and South America and the Caribbean. It's a 4-fiber pair ring protected system covering Atlantic and Pacific coasts of South America, Puerto Rico, and Central America. The cable lands here in the US in Boca Raton, Florida, continues on to San Juan, Puerto Rico, with the branching unit to Barranquilla, Colombia, and then from Puerto Rico onto Brazil with 4 landing stations in Brazil. It then routes to Argentina across the Andes Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. In Valparaiso, Chile, the cable then comes up along the Pacific coast with additional landings in Chile, Peru, Ecuador, and Guatemala, and then back to Boca Raton, closing off the protected ring that the SAM1 is. Next slide, please. So Maria is one of our newer systems. It was recently put into service in July 2018. It's a joint partnership with Microsoft and Meta, Facebook. Maria is a 4,100-mile transatlantic cable system that consists of 8 fiber pair and total capacity of over 200 terabit. And just to note and highlight the rapid pace of growth and bandwidth, in the initial system design for Maria, the initial forecasted capacity was 160 terabits. And just in the 2 years it took to complete the cable, We're now at over 200 terabits, so significant increase in capacity. But anyway, so Maria is one of the highest capacity subsea cables in the world. It connects Ashburn and Richmond, Virginia, via Virginia Beach across the Atlantic to our cable landing station in Sopelana, Spain, where we extend to our Tier 3 data center known as Dario. It's a purpose-built hub. Dario is also a new gateway to Europe, counting with the presence of 6 of the top European providers, top OTTs and content providers, and Dario provides direct connectivity to the major communication centers in Madrid, Marseille, London, Frankfurt, and Amsterdam. Next slide, please. All right, so BRUSA is a wholly owned Telxia system. It was put into service in August 2018. It's an 8-fiber pair system connecting Virginia Beach with Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It has branching units to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Fortaleza, Brazil. The BRUSA system will eventually serve as the Atlantic coast replacement for the SAM-1 system, which has an expected 25-year lifespan. So the BRUSA and Maria cables have a significant advantage by offering unique diversity with a landing point in the mid-Atlantic region of the US and in Spain. In the US, up to now, all cables to Latin America and Europe landed in Florida or New York and New Jersey. And in Europe, most transatlantic cables land in the UK. So the diversity, diversity from other cable systems along a new southern route, in addition to the lowest latency available to Europe and the latest technology and proximity to Ashburn, Virginia, the data center capital of the world, those are clear and distinct advantages of the Maria and the BRUSA cable systems. Next slide, please. One of our newest cable systems, the Mistral cable system, it's a joint project with América Móvil, Claro. It was recently put into service in 2021. The Mistral cable has similar landings to the SAM-1, and it'll be the replacement of the SAM-1 along the Pacific coast of South America. Another recent cable that we landed in Virginia Beach and already mentioned is the Do Not cable, a Google cable. It's a 4,100-mile cable with landing points in Virginia Beach and southern France. It's even higher capacity. These cables now landing in Virginia Beach up to now have been 8-fiber pair. The Do Not is a 12-fiber pair system, offering over 300 terabits of capacity. So Maria and Do Not, being that we have capacity on both, we land both cables in our landing station in Virginia Beach. Those cables allow us to provide our customers with low latency, diverse connectivity across the Atlantic with 2 of the most modern, highest capacity systems in the world. Other recent projects Telxia has been involved with include the Junior and Tanat cables. The Tanat's a 1,200-mile cable in the Southern Cone, connects Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. The Junior is another new cable, a Google cable from Rio de Janeiro to Sao Paulo, Brazil. So this combination of new cables, which include the BRUSA, the Mistral, the Junior, and the Tanat cable systems, will serve as the eventual replacement of the SAM-1 cable system, which has been in service for 22 years. Like I said before, has an expected lifespan of 25 years. So it looks like we're going to get a little more out of it, probably be about 30 years. But it's definitely more efficient to activate capacity on newer cable systems. So our preference is for systems like the BRUSA and the Maria or the Mistral, where we can use those. So there's next slide, please. So just to highlight here, the ones coming into Virginia Beach with the arrival of Do Not, we now have 3 modern high capacity submarine cables that land in our Virginia Beach cable landing station. Since landing Maria and BRUSA cables in Virginia Beach, we've seen very rapid growth and development in the local ecosystem. There's new fiber routes today that weren't available previously from Virginia Beach to Ashburn and beyond. There's been significant developments in data centers along the way. For example, the QTS Richmond NAP has become an important point of interconnection. Just 4 years ago, when we first landed the cables, QTS was only a transit point where we kept repeaters to amplify our signal back to Ashburn, Virginia. About 2 years ago, we installed a full service Telxius POP in QTS Richmond NAP. and are making our global transport and our IP services readily available to local businesses and organizations for the first time in the region. Next slide, please. And that's just the global network there. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating as to what you all have done and plan to do. Now let's switch to Greg Twitz, the other Greg on call here. Tell us more about what's happening in Global Links. Greg, take it away.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for everyone in making this possible. Next slide. So Global Links is a Virginia Beach company, and we operate a carrier-neutral data center, and it has CLS or cable landing stations capabilities. We have a sizable number of carriers in our Meet Me room, and we currently service the Virginia Beach network access point. That is, we have a lot of carriers come in and meet us in that location. We're 19 foot above sea level and inside a 500-year flood event. And we are uptime equivalent tier 3 DC data center, and currently at 2N+1 configuration, which is about as good as you can get. Next slide. So with the services that we've got inside Global Links, we've got internet service providers such as this one, which connects both terrestrial, subsea, to over 7,000 locations worldwide. Next one. That's just a photo of our initial build out in phase 1 at Global Links. Next one. So we operate our campus in Corporate Landing. It is 11.5 acres. It's capable of well over 290,000 square foot of additional data center activity, cable landing station space. And it consists of 3 phases. We have phase 1 is the 12,000 square foot, 2 meg existing facility that has been operating 3 years at this point. And phase 2 is the 25,000 square foot, 6 meg expansion, which will be a cable landing station and ready for activity at by the end of 23, perhaps 24, at the beginning of 24. A lot of things in this day and age depend on when you can get materials and equipment. So in 2023, we're hosting an additional 4 subsea cables in Sandbridge, and that has been 3 years in the making. We're totally permitted and ready to go with that. So we also have an extra 43 acres in reserve of high ground within 2 miles of the Virginia Beach campus, and that would give us an extra 600,000 square foot of data center complex. I mean, that's obviously the future. Also, we currently have under construction a Myrtle Beach cable landing station and an additional 4 permitted subsea bore pipes there. That is right in the middle of Myrtle Beach, and we have a few customers for that at this point. Next slide, please. So this is a layout of the current campus in Virginia Beach. The phase 1, that yellow area there, is the 12,000 square foot 2 meg facility that we're currently operating. The phase 2 is the 25,000 square foot expansion of a cable landing station, which will house 3 to 4 additional subsea cables and is going to be 6 megawatts. The phase 3 is the additional 250,000 square foot. That's on single story too. If we took it to 2 stories, we'd easily get a space of 500,000 square foot in that. Next slide. Just some rendering of the new cable landing station. Next. This is the existing layout as to where the phase 2 cable landing station is set to go. It's behind and will operate alongside the phase 1 existing system. So another slide. So we have direct connections between Telsius Cable Landing Station and Global Links. We can boast that we're the only ones that can provide zero latency and unparalleled redundancy. So I think we've seen that other part. So let's go to another slide. So this is the layout of Corporate Landing Park, which has been designated by Dominion Power and the City of Virginia Beach as the Corporate Landing Data Center Park now. With the, we work with Virginia Beach Economic Development to construct from one end of the park to the other 2 diverse routes with 8 4-inch conduits in one side, the blue side, and in the yellow side, another 8 conduits. You can see we've got direct connections into Telsius there. We're about 700 meters apart on the same side of the road. So that has got a lot of area in there for expansion. We have a development that Point One is working on opposite Telsius, and some other future players. In relation to the wind power, to about where the subsea cable future infrastructure is up that top left-hand corner, that's about where the Avangrid wind initiative, their infrastructure will land in around that area. And south of Telsius is where Dominion Power will put their substation. So this area here will be surrounded by green energy, which is, when you look at where the OTTs need to be, and their carbon neutrality or negative neutrality over the next 5 to 10 years, I think Virginia Beach is in a fantastic position to take, I'm talking data center development, in terms of taking advantage of that situation. Next slide. So we've got the subsea cable infrastructure that we've been talking about. So this has been an initiative of ours over the last 3 or 4 years. It hasn't been an easy process. I'm not sure if we had that over again, we'd be as enthusiastic as we were at the start of this. But nevertheless, we've gotten to the stage where we are fully permitted all the way through the process. I'll talk about that in some future slides. So the connections are through Sandbridge, through some wetlands, and directly connecting into Global Links. So that initiative will boost Virginia Beach's subsea cable capacity to 7+ cables, probably 8. And I would have to think we would be the largest subsea hub on the eastern seaboard at that stage. So if we look at it, you know, we're looking at the Atlantic, Latin America, local East Coast branching cables, etc., which is confluence we're talking about there. Next slide. So the start build on that is coming up in the next couple of months. We're starting the terrestrial side of that first, and given that it's a resort, we've got to be careful in terms of our timing. So it will go all the way through to the end of 2023 and be completed by then. But we'll get the first bite of that in this next 6 months pretty much developed, and that's about 6 miles of terrestrial build all the way through to Global Links. The next slide. So here's there's a lot of stuff going on here. I tried to jam as much as we could into this, but Gerardo was talking about the Telsius build, and Gerardo, that was a pretty impressive resume for Telsius that you put together. You did a fantastic job with that. You see the might of Telefonica and Telsius in their subsea builds, but the initiative is the 4 subsea cables, bore pipes, come into Pendleton, which was built by Telsius. You see Microsoft, Meta, and Google coming through there. That goes all the way for local geography, all the way through to from General Booth, connecting into Telsius. So the next build that we're looking at that I just mentioned is Global Links and the 4 marine builds that we're doing there. So it will house 4 new subsea cables, and the diversity is 4 miles. I think it's great diversity, and that's from beach manhole to beach manhole. If you look at the in that bottom right-hand side of the screen, the red conduits going into the ocean, they go in about a mile, and they're capped off at that point, waiting for the subsea cable owners to pull their cables through those conduits all the way through to the cable landing station. So if you look at that point as they go south, we've got a lot of DoD activity. Obviously, you've got Dam Neck sitting in there, which is the Navy SEALs. So we were pushed further south. If you look at that, when you hit the water, we've probably got a separation of over 5 or 6 miles as they go out. You've got, in terms of ownership of property, Virginia Beach owns through to low mean water. The state owns for the next 3 miles into the water, and then it's federal waters up to 12 miles. So we have a path that we've got through there where we avoid all the activity if it's coming our way of the wind offshore initiatives. Next slide. So the process in relation to where we are is the VMRC JPA, or that is joint permit application process. As mentioned, it took over 3 years with sign-offs from Virginia Marine Resource Committee, who managed this for the other applicants or joint permit people, such as City of Virginia Beach, US Army Corps, DEQ, Department of Defense, Back Bay Wildlife. And it shouldn't be forgotten that probably one of the most important people is when you're bringing these in, the neighbours that you're disturbing, and the people in Sandbridge, the Civic League, were very active in negotiating where we were and what we were doing there. They were fantastic to work with, but very skeptical, but they are on board. So next slide. This is just an overlay of where we come in. I think I got another slide similar. It says it's directionally drilled. So everything's underground. It's all HDD bore. There are 2 beach manholes going into the parking lot in Sandbridge, where the market is there. Next slide. There's another layout of it. That's the KMZ of it. You can see on the right-hand side. We're very close to the local store, and there's a restaurant there and an apartment complex on the other side. So to do that, that build, it's a 3-month process of drilling, with sound barriers up both sides. There's a lot of cost in bringing these things in and making sure everyone's covered. Those blue lines going out are the bore lines going out, and that's the sand dunes on the other side of the road. By the time we hit those sand dunes at base, we'd be probably 20 or 30 foot below elevation there. Next slide. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Greg. That was interesting information. The map where you showed where these cables are coming in was quite enlightening for me, at least. Let's go to some questions. If you have any questions, send them through the chat. So we do have one question from Brian Sweats. He says, beyond data centers, can you talk about the economic development opportunities you think the cables can bring to Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads more broadly? And that could be anybody from Charlie to Greg or to Geraldo.
I think everybody's probably pointing at me, but it's, if I may take a stab at this, I mean, fortunately for a place like Hampton Roads and Virginia Beach, we have the luxury, if you will, of being very diversified, with the exception, obviously, of our military presence that's in the area, which is really helping to drive all of this investment around data centers. Why the U.S. government doesn't necessarily tell us what they're doing around all this. We know they're in this business, but it's got to be helping foster that. Importantly, this is a good question because we are now trying to review where the city of Virginia Beach needs to be in order to encourage business that could come and take advantage of this advent of communication opportunities for the region and for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we are trying to analyze what parts of this industry could benefit the city of Virginia Beach and the region by inviting an investment, certainly calculating the potential tax revenue, but also the prospective job opportunities and all that goes along with that. We think that a place like Hampton Roads and Virginia Beach, and Virginia for that matter, is a very inviting place for people to want to come and raise a family and educate their kids, and hopefully those kids will stay here and go to work in these places. So we're continuing to evolve our marketing initiatives around this industry, and we're learning something new every day.
I think from a broad view of this, this infrastructure creates, it doesn't create a huge amount of jobs, we all know that, but what it creates is an ecosystem. The more subsea cables that come in and around Virginia Beach, the more likely we've got of a great ecosystem that attracts Fortune 500 other people to low latency into our areas. And I'm talking, you know, our RVA areas as much as anything too. And the other thing it does, it creates a lot more carrier activity, which lowers the local prices and it creates more competition, obviously, but it creates a lot more activity for enterprise and everybody else in the region. Is what I think is the main benefit of it. It will create an ecosystem.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Greg. I think it's very important for the infrastructure to continue to develop. And like you said, an increased number of providers, more competition in the local ecosystem to further reduce cost and allow these services to be available to a wider base of people.
Yeah.
It's interesting you all talk about infrastructure. So there's 3 cables right now. There's a possibility of a 4th one, you know, from South Africa. There's the confluence cable. So now we have 5 cables. And Greg, you talked about 4 more that you've got permitted and stuff. How many more cables, subsea cables, do you all envision coming into Virginia Beach in, say, the next 5 to 10 years?
These are all long-term plays. I mean, they take a long time in the making. The OTTs have pulled back a little bit as they get a bit of a scare with the economy at the moment. But on that side of their business, because it's long-range planning, it still goes ahead. The only thing that I say in relation to it is that it's probably, in my opinion, and Gerardo may have a different approach to this, but if in the next 6 or 7 years we see in total, with what we're discussing, another 3 or 4 subsea cables, then we should all be happy. I can't see it going past that, but it's a crystal ball.
Yeah, I agree with your vision there, Greg. And I think that the the physical infrastructure is expanding and slowly becoming more attractive. And for example, what you did there with the bore pipes and the new beach manhole there in Sandbridge, that's huge, you know, to have that diverse landing in Virginia Beach and the ability to provide the basic infrastructure that those cables need to land. So that's all key stuff, and I think that's all going to help to drive more cables to come into the region. And then also not just the development of the infrastructure, but also the continued support of the local governments, Virginia Beach Economic Development, Henrico Economic Development. I think that that all helps a lot. So I think the groundwork is being laid, and there's good development in the ecosystem in the area, a lot of projects in the planning. So yeah, I hope to see a lot more cables coming into Virginia Beach.
So let me ask you both, you know, I know that in 2012, there was Hurricane Sandy, and there was a lot of concern about what was happening in the New Jersey and New York market in terms of these subsea cables, plus they're older up there. Why didn't, you know, Harald, why didn't your company, or why didn't other companies, why did they pick Virginia Beach? Well, why not some other place?
So yeah, like you said, that that incident, the Hurricane Sandy incident in 2012, it really highlighted the need for diversity. Up to now, all cables, before these three cables landing in Virginia Beach, all cables landed in New York, New Jersey, or in Florida. And Hurricane Sandy, with all the devastation that it had in New York, New Jersey, and all the network outages, made very evident the requirement for a diverse landing site on the East Coast, and that was Virginia. And not only were the diversity needs met by having a third landing point, but also the proximity of Ashburn. So Ashburn is the data center capital of the world. It's said that over 70% of the world's internet traffic goes through Ashburn. So these cables landing in Virginia Beach provide the most direct and lowest latency routes. For example, Maria from Southern Europe is the lowest latency route into the data center capital of the world. And Brusa is the lowest latency, most direct route from Latin America into Ashburn as well. So those are key considerations.
There is another consideration too, and it is the fact that New Jersey, anything running north and to some extent south, and I'll qualify that, is getting a lot harder to permit. I mean, getting into New Jersey, going up to all the way through to New England is becoming an environmental disaster for subsea cables, and also Florida. But you might take the Carolinas and Virginia as a good landing spot because they're reasonable hosts compared with these other places.
Absolutely, that's another key consideration and reason why they come in here.
Well, I'm sure, gentlemen, we could continue this conversation for a while, but we try to keep it to about an hour. So thank you very much. Let me just briefly tell everybody what else is happening here at 757 Connects, RVA757 Connects. We will have today's session on our website probably in about a week or so you can replay that if you'd like. And also a reminder that if you want to know more about what's happening with the Global Internet Hub, go to our website, www.globalinternethub.org. Next month, we will have our meeting next month is going to be, Innovation Spotlight will be on December the 6th. Again, Tuesday, December the 6th from noon to 1 p.m. And we're going to talk about what is this thing called a Global Internet Hub and why is it so important to the mega region. We're going to get an update on all of that. So we'll get more details out about that and the speakers here in the next week or so. There are ways you can be involved in RVA757 Connects if you'd like. Suggest a topic, give us names to be adding to our database if you can, and invite us to some of your business organizations or associations so we can talk a little bit more about that. Again, thanks to our sponsors, the Newport News Shipbuilding. Thank you very much for sponsoring today's Innovation Spotlight. We appreciate that. And finally, thank you all for attending today's webinar. And again, hopefully we will see you next month on December the 6th for our next in our Innovation Spotlight series. Thank you. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.